I don't know about you guys, but we may have just entered a new era of cinematic vlogging. But hey, you let me know down below. This is the Laowa 12mm f2.8 0D light, and yeah, this is a full frame lens for RF, Z, and for me, L mount. And this is super wide angle, has next to zero distortion, at least when you aren't like 4 inches from the lens. And I have so far really been loving this lens. And while it isn't always easy to get a great shot with a wide angle lens, for me, when it works, it really works. I have to say, this lens is kind of the full package, no compromises except for, well, maybe a few little nitpicks and one big potential disappointment, but we'll look at all of that later on. For now, I just want to thank you guys for watching, subscribing, liking the video, as well as Laowa for sending this out to me in the first place, but they didn't tell me to say anything in particular. So photos, videos, anything in between, how does this lens hold up? Well, the image is really clean overall. It opens up to f2.8, which is great for low light, stars, things like that. 2.8 honestly is really solid already, although one stop down does help darkness and sharpens it up just a tad. And I have to say the focus on this lens is all manual, and that is a bit of a sticking point because other mounts do get autofocus with this lens, which I think would be really awesome. But again, manual focus, wide angle lens, it works well enough. But anyway, on the topic of image quality, there's really no issues otherwise, like chromatic aberration, distortion, anything along those lines. I mean, there is a bit of warping and it kind of distorts at close focus, but who's really racking from close focus to infinity on a 12mm full frame lens anyway? Oh, and I know I was doing a bit earlier, but it's actually pretty easy to vlog with this thing. I mean, this is probably like, you know, this far from my face. So it actually does end up being a pretty good vlogging lens. If you're on other camera systems, good luck, I guess, but if you're on Lumix, Stabilization, even the normal setting helps a lot. One of the biggest selling points here also for me is an incredibly good minimum focus distance, which is one of the most underrated aspects of any lens in my opinion. It really gives a pretty cool, like close focus, wide angle look. And I gotta say, while you don't necessarily think of an ultra wide lens giving you super shallow depth of field, with like that 6-inch close focus, it actually throws stuff way out of focus when you're focused close up, and there's still a pretty good amount of blur from a distance. And when you are focused at those distances, the backgrounds pretty much are looking as good as you could expect on a super wide angle lens. Speaking of bokeh, this L mount version and a few others sport this 5 aperture blade design, which is good for some things, but for bokeh, you can definitely see those blades in the out of focus highlights. On the upside though, you know, the Sunstars are given a really nice 10-point design because of those. And let's go backwards for once and look at flare. You are going to get a bit of a rainbow across the image in really dark environments with really bright lights. So the rainbows are fun, but even stop down to f4 and pretty much all the way down, the flares are a lot more tame, and that Sunstar comes out pretty much right away, which is pretty great. There also is some like broad flaring towards the edges of the frame, so definitely use the lens hood for best flare performance. So it's good in like kind of a quirky way. I kind of dig it, and I like that it's got this 2 different things, whether you're at 2.8 or even stopped right down to f4, you're already gaining that 10-point Sunstar look. I would say there are some tiny itty bitty speckly flare that I found a little distracting, and I think they get worse when you're focused up close, definitely, so that could definitely intrude in your image in situations like these. So obviously Laowa makes some pretty fantastic lenses, and the build quality here is no exception. Really smooth, maybe like 90-degree focus ring, nothing too terrible. Really light clicks on the aperture ring, so you could put it in between if you wanted to. Really common 72mm filter thread. I'm usually stepping up to 77 or 82. Lens hood, which is, you know, gonna be kind of relevant. And one thing that surprised me was actually, we've got a weather sealing gasket towards the end here. You actually don't really see that much on manual focus glass like this. So it really emphasizes like being travel friendly, which, you know, I put it on the S9 here, and it looks pretty beefy to me, but it's not the biggest lens in the world, but I definitely wouldn't say travel ready, travel friendly. You're gonna get pretty great images from a travel standpoint, but I don't know, I just can't quite say that this is a travel friendly lens personally, but it's also not that bad. It's probably like about the size of like the 20 to 60 kit lens. And if you take the lens hood off, it's a little bit better. But I don't know, you guys tell me. But outside of that, it really is the only thing build quality and function wise that I would have loved is that autofocus. It'd be great for photos, as well as like really dynamic stuff like those dance clips that I showed you in the beginning. It's really sad that L mount has great autofocus now, but it's stuff like this that, you know, companies are gonna have to officially apply. It's a whole thing. We'll get into it in another video maybe. And they could join the L mount alliance and solve that problem in the future. Anyway, but outside of some flaring issues, the lack of autofocus is the big one. This is truly a stunning lens and quite the achievement for such a wide angle lens on a full frame camera. It's great for real estate, architectural, astro, even using it just as a wide shot. You know you can get a wide no matter how small the space is. This is a pretty great option and one of the better wide angle lenses I've used, and I've used a few, most of them being from Laowa themselves. So anyway, and it works great for photo, video, anything you guys might want, even vlogging. But yeah, anyway, thanks again, Laowa. Thank you guys for watching. Do all the YouTube stuff. And if you are subscribed, I will see you when I see you.